Hello and welcome to another Cards Unbarred episode. My name's Ryan, and in this video I'm going to show you the 2 to 5 player game Kings designed by Hermit. As you can see by this piece of paper, I don't actually have the game box itself, and that's because this is a Kickstarter preview video. The components that you're going to see throughout this video are prototype and will be subject to change, so make sure you head over to the Kickstarter page to see what the final components will look like, and I will put a link for that Kickstarter in the description below. But players who have heard of or are familiar with the game Tricktakers, which was also designed by Hermit back in 2021, will see some similarities in the Kings game itself, since it uses the same type of system from Tricktakers. Deck makeup, trick resolution are relatively the same. However, Kings has expanded upon that system and has included some new twists of its own. The character cards themselves have on the backside of them bid options. So every time you choose a character for a round, you actually have to choose, are you going to use it for its ability or for the bid option? And because you have 3 characters available to you every round, 2 of them which will use their ability and 1 that will be used for their bid, it allows for you to discover really neat, interesting combinations that you can make between the various characters. So with all that in mind, let's go to the table and I'll show you how to play. The deck makeup in Kings consists of 4 suits numbered 1 through 10, as well as 2 white flag and 2 rare cards. The game also comes with 5 jacks, queens, and kings in the various colors of white, red, blue, green, and black. There are 20 character cards in total, 3 hermits, 3 gamblers, 2 samurai, 2 ninjas, 2 berserkers, which each come with their own 10 black card that have different backs than the normal cards, 2 resistance, 2 healers, 2 collectors, 1 devil, which has an additional double-sided devil card for certain player counts, and 1 cheerleader, which has a double-sided bid card. There's also a start player card, and lastly 40 cookie tokens that are used to keep track of score. There are 20 10-point tokens, 10 50-point tokens, and 10 100-point tokens. So taking a closer look at the various kings, you'll see in the top right-hand corner of the card, there's a crown with a number inside it. That number refers to the priority. The lower the number, the higher the priority. And that priority will do a few things throughout the game. Most importantly, it's all about the drafting order. When you're selecting characters, the lower number will draft first. When your king is used in the game, you'll flip it over to its other side, and that priority number will get increased. Next, on the middle part at the bottom of the card, you'll see the victory point symbol with a number next to it. That refers to the amount of victory points that you will gain from that card if it is on the front side at the end of the game. Taking a look at the back of the king cards, at the bottom part of the card, you will see more scoring criteria. Depending on the king that you have, will determine which type of cards it will score. Before I show you the specifics of how Kings plays, I want to show you what a normal trick would look like, how you resolve the trick, and the suit hierarchy of the deck itself. Kings is a must-follow trick taker. What that means is, whoever is the lead player will get to pick any 1 card from their hand to lead to the trick. Then all other players must follow that led suit if they can. So if you have a card in hand that matches that color, you must play it. If you do not have a card in your hand of that color, then you can choose to play any card you want. Once all players have played a card into the trick, the person who played the highest card of the led suit would win the trick and take all cards and put them in a face-down stack in front of them, and then would continue to lead the next trick. If a player has a white flag or a rare card in their hand, they can choose to play these cards at any time, regardless of if they had a card that would match the lead suit or not. So if these cards were in a player's hand, they could actually choose to play any one of them. If multiple rare cards are played into the same trick, the first one played would win. The black suit acts as sort of a trump suit in Kings, which means in this trick example we have here, if red was the lead suit, normally the 9 red would win the trick. However, because there is a black suit within the trick itself, it is considered to be a higher suit than the red, blue, and green suits, and that player would win the trick instead. So just showing you a quick chart of the hierarchy. We have the white flag at the bottom, which is the lowest card. Anytime it's played, that player will lose the trick. The red, blue, and green suits are all essentially equal to each other, except the lead suit would always be stronger. So if somebody leads red and another player doesn't have red and plays blue or green, that would be weaker because red was the lead suit. But as you can see, the black suit ranks above red, blue, and green. So anytime a black card would be played, it would beat out those 3 suits. And finally, the rare card will beat all number cards in a trick. And another reminder, if there's ever a tie for a card that is played, the first one played will win, except for the kings themselves, which we'll get to momentarily. To set up for a game of Kings, place the Jack, Queen, and King cards in the middle of the table, as well as the 20 character cards. Depending on the player count, you will remove some of the character cards. In this video, we will be setting up for the full 5-player game, so all characters will be in play. Next, make sure to place all coin tokens within reach of all players. Next, shuffle the 44 playing cards and deal out 5 cards to each player and randomly choose a start player. Beginning with the start player and going in a clockwise order using a snake draft, each player will choose 1 character, either one of the kings or one of the regular characters. If a player takes one of the king cards, they will also take the Jack and Queen that is of the matching color and place it face up in front of them. As I mentioned, it is a snake draft, so that means once it gets back to the last player, that player will draft twice in a row, and then it will go counterclockwise back to the first player. Players will continue to draft their characters until they have taken 1 king, queen, and jack card, as well as 3 regular characters. The order in which you choose your king and the regular characters is truly up to you, but you can only take one of the kings, and you must take one of them. You are allowed to take multiple of the same character if it is available as well. Once all players have drafted 3 characters and 1 king, place all undrafted cards to the side for now. They will not be used in the first round, but they will come back and be available at the start of round 2. And now I'm going to show you the flow of a round within Kings. As I start to do some of the tricks and the abilities on characters, I'm not going to go into the specifics at this moment because I'm going to spend some time at the end of the video doing that. But for ones that are pertinent, I will go over at the time. Just keep that in mind. So now that all players have drafted their 6 characters, we will begin the bidding and selection of characters. This is all done simultaneously. So all players would be taking their 3 regular characters back into their hand, choosing one of them to play as their bid, and the other 2 to use as their characters to be able to have access to their abilities. So when all players are ready, you can count 1, 2, 3 and place your card that you're using as a bid on its bid side face up, and the other 2 cards with their character sides face up. After all bids and characters are chosen, any character that has the setup keyword will do that now. So for example, the sheep player has the 2 Berserkers that both require you to put a black 10 into your hand that has a different back to show it's the Berserker card, and then discard 1 card from your hand. Any discarded cards will go face down near the draw pile. So they would then take the other 10, put it in their hand, and choose to discard this blue one. The gambler requires them to draw 2 cards from the deck, and then discard any 2 cards from their hand. It could be the same 2 they just drew or any combination of their choice. They will get rid of that and that. Once all players have completed setup, we're now ready to begin the trick play. The player who chose the white king will be the start player for the first trick of the round, since they have the highest priority. Remember that number in the crown on the top right-hand corner is the king's priority. The lower the number, the higher your priority. So the king player will choose any 1 card from their hand to lead to the trick, and we'll keep this first trick nice and simple. So they'll just play this green 7, and we come to the Berserker player who does not have any green cards, so they can play any card they want, and they will choose to play this 2. Coming to the Frog player, they do have a green card, so they will have to play that, and they'll choose to play that green 6. We then come to the Tiger. They also have this green 9, they will play that. And the Duck does not have a green card, and they want to win the trick, so they will choose to play that 3 black. So, as a reminder, the highest of the lead suit would win the trick normally, which would have been this green 9, but the black suit is in the trick, which is ranked above the red, blue, and green suits. So the highest of the black suit would win, which is the 3 for the Duck. So they will take the cards and stack them face down in front of them to show they've taken 1 trick, and they will then lead the next trick. On your turn before you play a card, you want to look at all of your characters to see if there's any ability or anything that you can trigger. In this case, the ninja, if you are supposed to be leading, you can choose another player to lead instead. That is optional, they don't have to do it, but the Duck could choose another player to lead this trick. You also have your Queen, which is an item that you can play once per round as long as it is face up on your turn. So they could play this 1 red and then play this Queen, flipping it over to activate its ability. I'll go over all of these shortly, but for now we'll just say they played the 1 red. Comes to the white king, they must follow that red suit, or they could play a rare white flag, because those could be played at any time. And they will choose to play the white flag. Now, on your turn, if you want to play your king, you can do that as long as you play a card that matches the suit of your king. The white king goes off of white flags and rare cards. The red king uses red cards. Green king, green cards, black king, black cards, blue king, blue cards. So because the white king played a white flag, they could choose to place their king on top of that. The kings are the highest ranked cards in the game. They rank above the rares. So even if another player played a rare card in this trick, the white king would now be winning. However, this is the only time where if multiple cards of the same rank are played, the later one wins, for the king specifically. Every other card, first one played wins, but for the kings, later one played wins. So right now, red is the lead suit. If the sheep player, which they don't, but if they had a red card in their hand, they could play that red card and play their king, and they would be winning because it was played later. So sometimes playing your king earlier in the trick might be a little dangerous because you can't be too sure if you're going to win. But anyways, finishing out the trick here, they have to play off of the red suit, which they don't have. They know a king's been played, so they're not going to be able to win, and they'll just choose to play that blue 5. Coming over to the frog here, they must follow red. So even though they have this green card, which they could play and put their king on it to try and win the trick, they can't do that because they have a red card they must follow with. So they'll choose to play that red 4. And finally, coming to the tiger, they will choose to play this red 3. The white king wins the trick, takes all of the cards and puts them face down in front of them, and then flips their king to show that they have been used. Your king can only be used once in the entire game. So now that it is flipped over, it will stay flipped over for the rest of the game. but now the bottom part of the card, which gets them bonus points at the end of the round, is in effect for every round that it is flipped on this backside. So all the other 4 players aren't going to get their scoring bonus for each round until they flip over. However, if you keep your king on the front side at the end of the game, you'll score the points that are shown at the bottom of it. Either way, trick play will continue until all 5 tricks have been resolved, and then you will go into the scoring based on each player's bid and any additional character points. To calculate all players' scores, first look at the character you chose as your bid and see if you managed to take the same number of tricks as your bid. So starting with the lion player over here, they had a bid of 2, they took 2 tricks, so they successfully got their bid, which is worth 70 points. Also taking a look at their jack, they would get 20 points if they took 2 tricks, which they did, so they're going to score 90 points total just off of those. Finishing out the scores though, we want to look at any other characters if they have any scoring criteria. The Hermit gets 20 points for 0 wins, which they took 2, so they won't score that. And then the King has that collection bonus of any white flags or rare cards, which they've got 1 and 2 there. So they're going to score 50 points for that. So 50 plus 20 is 70, plus another 70 is 140. They would then collect 140 points and put those in front of them. Coming to the sheep over here, their bid card's a little weird, which is the devil. This is you will score 30 points for every other player that missed their bid. So now you need to check between all of the players who didn't hit their bid. In this case, the frog player wanted 0 or 2 tricks, only took 1, so they missed. But every other player hit their bid. They took 2, they took 1, and they took 0. So they're going to get 30 points off of the one player's missed bid. Their jack and both of their berserkers are going to get 20 points each for taking 1 trick. So that's going to be 20, 40, 60, plus the 30 for a total of 90 points. We then come to the frog. As we saw, they took 1 trick but wanted 0 or 2, so they will not score anything there. Their hermit has 0, and their jack is 0 and 2 as well. So unfortunately, they did not hit their bid at all, or score any of their bonus points on their characters, and their gambler gets 20 bonus points if they hit their bid. So since they missed that, they will not score any points there, but because their king is flipped over, we do need to check to see if they took any green cards in a trick, which they took 1, which is worth 10 points. So they will collect 10 points. The tiger took 0 tricks, so they will get 30 points for that. Their jack is 1 or 3, so they won't score anything there. Their healer checks for blue or green cards, which they don't have any, so they're just going to score the 30 points from their bid. And finally, the duck player has taken 1 trick, which hits their bid of 1 for 40 points, and their jack has a bid of 1 for an additional 20 points. Their ninja required 2, so they won't get that, but they do have the healer, which checks for blue and green cards in their trick, which they have 3 of. It's important to note you can only go to a max of 50, so they would, if they had 6 or more, they would just score a total of 50 points, but in this case, they have 30, plus 40 is 70, plus another 20 is 90. Now that all players have gone through scoring, we need to prepare for the next round. First, take all cards and put them back in the draw pile and shuffle up the entire deck and deal out 5 cards to each player. Players will take those 5 cards into their hand and we will begin drafting for round 2. To begin the new round of drafting, players will flip their characters that were on their bid side face up and then push all 3 of their regular characters towards the middle of the table, but making sure to keep them in front of their play area. This is important because now players will be drafting from these characters. You can choose the same type of character, but you cannot take the exact character card that is face up in front of you. So if the duck player wanted a ninja, they would have to take this one. They couldn't retake their own card. Additionally, all unselected characters from the beginning of the first round are played into the middle of the table face up as well, because these can now be selected to draft from again. You start the drafting from the player who has the highest priority. It is not a snake draft in clockwise and counterclockwise anymore. You go from the highest priority to the lowest priority and then restart. You're only selecting 3 characters because you already have your Jack, Queen, and King, so you're just picking 3 of the regular ones. So because the White King has flipped over, their number is now 10, so the lowest number, aka highest priority, is the Sheep with a number 2. So they will be the start player for the first trick next round, and they get to start the draft phase. Again, they cannot take one of these 3 cards because they were the characters they had in round 1, but they can pick anything else they want. Another reminder here as well, you do know what you're dealt, so you want to be picking your characters based off of the strengths and weaknesses of what they could do. So seeing some blue and green, which are pretty high numbers in their hand, maybe they want to take the healer to try and get those bonus points. Once all players have drafted 3 characters, you will play round 2 exactly the same way you did as round 1, with a couple differences. If any player has used one of their queen cards, they will pay the points on it to flip it back over if they want to. The cost associated is shown at the bottom of the card. And any kings that have been flipped over will permanently stay on the flipped side. Points will be calculated the same way at the end of round 2, and then you will do drafting for the start of round 3 exactly the same way you did round 2. You'll push your 3 characters out to the middle of the table, and then going in priority order, selecting 3 new characters and playing round 3. Round 3's drafting works exactly the same way the start of round 2 did, and the trick play is the same. The only difference is the bidding phase. When you select one of your characters to bid, you actually get to take the Jack into your hand as well, and now you can make 1 to 2 bids. So to go into further clarification, if this was the start of round 3, and these were the 4 cards that the duck could choose from, they could make this their normal 1 bid, in which case these 3 would be face up, just like round 1 and round 2 were, or they could choose to flip 2 cards over to have 2 bids. Again, this can be any combination you want it to be, including the Jack itself. Rounds 1 and 2, the Jack is always face up, getting you the additional points for the number of tricks you take, but round 3, you can use it as a bid card. All Jacks are a bid of 3 worth 100 points. If you want to leave your Jack face up, again, this is me just repeating, you can have any 2 bids. This is an option available to all players, so in the 3rd round, one player might have 1 bid and another player might have 2 bids. After you get all of your points at the end of the 3rd round, whoever has the most points wins and is considered the true trick taker. If there is a tie in points, the player who has the highest priority would win. And now to go over all of the characters in more detail, and we will start with the Hermit. The Hermit will allow you on your turn to rotate it sideways, to draw 3 cards from the draw pile into your hand, and then discard any 3 cards from your hand. You rotate it sideways to show that it's been used, since you can only use this once per round. They also have an additional bonus of 0 tricks. You will get 20 points for doing so. The Gambler's ability is similar to the Hermit's, except it's done during setup. You would draw 2 cards from the draw pile and discard any 2 cards from your hand. The additional section on the side here means if you hit your bid, you'll score 20 additional points, no matter what your bid is of your other card. Next up, we have the Resistance. The Resistance will allow you to, on your turn, whenever you play a 1, you can turn it into a 10, or a 10 into a 1. Same goes with a white flag. When you play that, you can turn it into a rare card, or you can turn a rare card into a white flag. You'll notice this doesn't have the symbol that the Hermit does. You don't have to exhaust it to use it, because it's always available. As long as you have those appropriate cards, you can trigger the Resistance's ability. Now we have the Ninja. The Ninja allows you on your lead play, you can choose somebody else to lead instead. And if you manage to take 2 tricks during the round, you'll get 30 points. The Samurai has a skill where all of your red cards will become black. This only applies to the player who has an active Samurai. So if the Samurai would lead out a red card, all other players must follow red because technically it's the red suit. But for trick resolution, this is considered a black card for the purposes of checking who wins. The healer will score you 10 points for every blue and green card that you collect from trick play when you calculate your score. You can only score up to a max of 50 points though. The collector works exactly the same as the white king when it's flipped over, where it scores for every white flag and rare card it's collected, but you'll notice it can only go up to 80 points instead of 150. The Berserker comes with an extra black 10 card that has a different back than the other regular playing cards. During setup, you take this black 10 into your hand and then discard any one card of your choice from your hand. If you take 1 trick during the round, you will score 20 bonus points. The Devil has an innate ability. You will automatically count as if you took 2 additional tricks in the round. So for example, if you chose the healer bid that has an option of 1 and 2 and the Devil was face up, you've actually already hit your bid of 2. But if you take any tricks during the round, that number counts towards this overall number right here. So if you took 1 trick, you'd have a total of 3, which as you can see here as well, if you take 3 tricks, you'll lose 20 points. And the Devil has a bid that is special compared to all the other bids. This one is player dependent. You will score 30 points for each other player that misses their bid. One thing to point out, if you have the gambler face up in front of you, you get 20 bonus points if you hit your bid. If your bid is the Devil, you only need at least 1 other player to miss their bid to count as successfully hitting your bid for the gambler. And lastly, we have the Cheerleader. If you choose the Cheerleader as a character face up, you will have this Kizuna card, which you will hand to another player at the table, and they will become your partner. It's also important to note, you don't make a bid when you have the Cheerleader. So when you have the 3 other cards, and you're choosing one of them to flip as your bid, if the Cheerleader's face up, you just keep all 3 of your characters face up. Because you're not actually making a bid, you are helping your partner hit their bid. Whoever you choose, let's just say, in this example, they chose a player who had the Resistance as their bid. They are now working to make sure that that player hits their bid of 1 or 3 tricks, because the Cheerleader player will score the amount of points based on their teammate or their partner. The tricks that you take don't mean anything. You only care about your partner and them hitting their bid. The other thing you can do once on your turn, if you turn the card sideways, you can then pass any 1 card from your hand to your partner, and they can pass you 1 card back, and it can be the exact same card you just passed them. Now, if you choose the Cheerleader for its bid option, you will take that other card you gave to a player as your partner, and you will flip it to its copy bid side, and then you will instead give that to another player, and then you are just copying that player's bid. You are not a partner with them, so you're not trying to help them. You taking tricks actually matters. So going back to that example, if they chose the resistant player and copied that, the person who has the Cheerleader as their bid must take 1 or 3 tricks to get 40 or 70 points, regardless of what this player actually does. The White Queen's ability allows you to play any card and then turn it into a rare card. So for example, they could play a 3 red, trigger the Queen, this now becomes a rare card. You could also play your King on top of this now, because the King is played on white flags and rare cards, and you have technically made this 3 red a rare. The Red Queen allows you to play this card on your turn to just gain 1 additional trick win. The Blue Queen allows you to play any 1 card and then turn it into a white flag. So play that 2, flip it over, it now becomes a white flag. The green queen allows you to play last in the trick. So if it is your turn, you'd flip it over, your turn essentially gets skipped, and then you get to play a card last. If you would be the lead player, lead just passes to the left. And finally, the black queen allows you to ignore the must follow rule. You flip it over, and then essentially you can play any card you want. Otherwise, that's everything you need to know to play Kings. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Thanks so much for watching.